in another year or two, I couldn't have done this. But I am all in. And there's several components to what my objective is with those 32 acres in Hermon, Maine. And, and I mean, I'm preoccupied a little bit with living to 100 because I need that much time. I said, we're going to move Carl up to the Cup Series, and we want you to drive the 99 truck. And I go, okay. He goes, okay, what? I said, good. And he goes, we're good? And I said, we're good. I said, I got to go talk to my wife. So I drove back, and I go in, and she goes, where's the paint? And I go, I quit. I'm going racing. And I basically went racing with Jack for a year. And it was fabulous. It really was.
Welcome in. It's Backstretch Banter, Sirius XM NASCAR, Channel 90. Good to be here today. Chris Childers with RFK's Mike Massaro. We are going to St. Louis this weekend for RFK. We are hoping for a great week coming off Darlington. Chris Buescher able to find his way into the top 10. Ryan Preece finished P16 and Brad was P15. It was the first week of the playoffs. Obviously, we wish we were involved, but still hoping for some great finishes and great results the rest of the year. Mr. Massaro, I know you got to be excited because Ricky Craven is hanging out with us today for the show. Everybody loves Ricky. NASCAR driver, was in the media world for a while. Didn't he work with you for quite a while on TV?
We spent a little bit of time up in Bristol, Connecticut at ESPN. We were partners on the show NASCAR Now. He was the analyst, I was the host, and we had a lot of fun off the air. So great to have him here. As he said before, it's like we're brothers. So good to be back in the same room sharing microphones again.
Mike,
I love that.
Yeah, it's really.
I love that. Hello, Ricky. How are you?
I'm great. Chris, thank you for having me. And you have the affiliations in your lifetime, and I'm almost bumping up on 60, so I've got several of them. And you sometimes forget how important a part of your life these people are. You drift apart geographically, and life changes, but Mike and I belong to the same fraternity. I mean, and it's a good fraternity.
It is.
I mean, we spent 13 years together, and we had a racing culture that brought us together. And that was after I hung up my helmet. Boy, I don't think I could have had a better second act than joining the ESPN team.
Well, let me tell you, I've worked with a lot of great analysts in television, in racing, but none are better than Ricky Craven. Ricky Craven did so much homework off the air, gave great insight to the sport, which I know he's going to do today here on Backstretch Banter, so we're looking forward to that. So much catching up to do. I'm sure we'll talk about ESPN in a little while, but I know Chris and I really want to get to the heart of the matter, and the fact is you're back in the sport, right? You're back in the sport in a different way. You might want to still have the helmet because, it's not all that safe being a racetrack owner.
Right.
But that's what you are now. So Chris and I want to get into that a little bit. You bought a racetrack in Maine. Chris, where do you want to start with this?
Well, you know what? I think the reason I think it's so compelling is, we've got a lot of racetracks out there. But when you're a Ricky Craven and you say, here I am at the stage of my life, this is what I want to commit to. This is going to be my passion. So why? How? Why did this? Did somebody come to you and say, hey, I got this place? Was it a place that you loved for a long time? How did this come to be?
Yeah, so I put together, with the help of a friend, and I put this little clip together that captured the sort of the base of why I'm involved with this just outside of Bangor, Maine. I'm 5 years old. I'm sitting in the grandstands at Speedway 95. I'm watching my dad win the heat, the semi-feature, and the feature. They called it the Triple Crown. I have vivid memories of that night. I have vivid memories of watching him race every Saturday night, and my mom racing in the Powder Puff and winning. And this is I would say this is personal. I think it's got a lot to do with the fact that I'm bumping up on 60, and
Okay.
and I have a vision, and it's a vision that I've carried for at least 20 years, because there was a period where I tried to buy the track. Thank God I didn't, because I wasn't prepared. I wouldn't have had the focus I have now, and I'm not volunteering for an early death, but I do feel like I'm in the last chapter of my life, in that I'm signing on for 20 years. Like, this is what I think I'm going to be doing for 20 years, or at least have my fingerprints on it. And so that's the catalyst for doing it.
So what's this track like? What can people expect when they go there?
It's like any other short track in the country or North America, because I raced a lot in Canada earlier in my life. But so it was created in 1966. I think they began construction in 64. The first race was in 66, the year I was born. And it's 15 miles from where I grew up. I raced there. I won there. And, you know, in sort of a retro kind of way, it's not changed that much. There's a gentleman behind the curtain that, you know, has been front and center. His name's Del Merritt, and he bleeds Speedway 95. I'm acquiring the track from him. There have been other owners along the way that I had gotten to know or even became close to. Red Baker, Alice Baker, but Del owns all of the track, and I'm acquiring all of the track, and he's sort of he's going to shadow me. He's such an important part of the racetrack that he's, you know, right now we have a board of directors, and there's one member, and that's him. I mean, he's, you know,
Gotcha.
he's just that valuable. But
Yeah.
Late models, I'm guessing?
yeah, all of those things will come into play
you
in
don't
about
know.
2 months.
There's-
I kind of know, but you know,
What is the track actually doing as we sit? Like, without
yeah,
you
right. So
taking over, what's happening there now?
so they're competing
Okay.
on Wednesdays and Saturdays, and that's I guess been the program for years, but not the healthiest of conditions or circumstances. You know, like there were when I think back to 1971, my dad was racing in the top class, and there were 35, 40 cars every week, and it was like that in each of the 3 or 4 divisions they had. And that's one of the things that has changed, and that's one of the things that we're focused on primarily, is getting that back. But it's not going to be easy. You both know the tracks have been disappearing for decades, really.
Right.
And I feel, personally, really, really good about the decision and what we're doing and what we're going to incorporate. But at the core, some of it is because I didn't want that track to disappear.
Yeah.
You know, it's
personal.
part of my DNA.
I mean, it's hard not for it to be personal when your father won there, your mother won there, you won there. Great memories.
Yeah,
right?
and Del has done a remarkable job keeping it all together. But he's in his early 80s, and I got a call from someone that said, if you're going to buy this track, this probably is your best chance. And there was no basis behind it. It actually wasn't even a call. It was a text. And I don't know why, but I sort of impulsively acted on it. The conversation between Del and I was very constructive. It was different than any other conversation he and I've had in the past, and we had entertained this. I was going to fly the next day, and I said, give me 2 days. And I drove up in a Corvette and left the Corvette there, okay? Because I'm going home. Like, I'm all in. And so if you look around the sort of the perimeter of all this, I've had this phenomenal life, And I give credit all the time about being part of NASCAR and how NASCAR changed my life. And I feel like I contributed to NASCAR. But I also feel like that part of my life has not slammed shut, but I'm sort of looking out the window now instead of being there. And I'll always campaign for it, and I'll always defend it, and I'll always express my opinion as it relates to the sport, because I am a part of it, and I've won in 5 NASCAR divisions. I have equity in NASCAR. But I want to do something in the last 20 years that sort of signifies I've gone full circle, and I'm saying thank you. Sincerely. I started here, and I made a complete circle. I've just connected the starting and the end, where I started and where I hope I'm going to end, and I'm dedicating the last chapter of my life to it.
And the history of this racetrack, I mean, it's got rich heritage, right? So I would imagine there's some responsibility there, right, in keeping that rich tradition. I mean, you feel it. You're homegrown. Yeah,
I think you make a great point.
Right.
It was front and center when I made the decision. It has to be. I'm taking it personal, as I said earlier, and it has to be my best painting. And it will never ever replace sitting in the grandstands and deciding I want to be a race car driver and actually recognizing that, that goal, that dream. You've heard me tell this story. I was close to winning in the beginning of my sophomore year in Cup. I battled Earnhardt at Rockingham for a win. I battled Gordon and Bobby Labonte the next week at Darlington. I was this close when I nosed into the concrete at Texas Motor Speedway. And for all practical purposes, I lost 3 years of my life. Didn't know my racing life and didn't know if I would ever be able to check that box. When I went under the checkered flag at Martinsville in 2001, I really satisfied the most important part of the whole equation for me. And I would never, ever, ever say that, all right, I'm good, I'm done, because I felt like, we'll say 3 years earlier, I felt like I was a really old 31. But when I won, I felt like I was a 20-year-old.
Of course you did.
And
of course you
so
did.
we had 3 or 4 more years after that and signed off. But my life truly was complete professionally because of that win. And this racetrack will never satisfy me in that way. But it's the right thing at the right time. It's just something I want to do. I told friends of mine, the last 20 years belong to me. Anybody that has children know, you dedicate yourself to your children also, right? And the things you do, and you always will. But I'm doing this because I want to do it.
It's a beautiful thing, I think, when somebody can fall in love with something that they want to dedicate their life to beyond just what they did professionally. And I really admire what you said. This is your way of professionally giving back, but it also keeps you engaged in the sport, and I think it serves a lot of different people in a beautiful way. I was just looking at the track. I was just looking at some pictures of it. It is grassroots and then some. It is so cool.
Right.
It's a place that I know I'd love to spend a night. So give me an idea now of your schedule, what this looks like as you try to make this place special and sustainable, and generations. There could be a young kid that's out there that's watching his mom and dad win next year, right? And he's going to be, inspired and wanting to save the track in 20 years, right? So give us an idea of what goes into this.
So in the last 2 weeks, I've gone from, we'll say Bangor, people recognize Bangor a little more geographically, from Bangor to Augusta, back to Bangor, to Portland, back to Bangor, over to New Hampshire, back to Bangor. Every day in the last 2, or maybe it's been 3 weeks, every day I have gone to the racetrack, and every day I've engaged in something. And all along the way, I visualize what we can do with the 32 acres and what the fans deserve and what the customers deserve and what the competitors deserve. And what we're going to do is we're going to build a culture where everybody feels as though it's their track. It's critically important.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're literally going to take, if all of these things can come together quickly, then we're going to take everybody along the ride with us. And I use the word equity. Anybody that's close to me knows that that's a critical
Mm-hmm.
word, because if you're going to have success, you need to have equity in it. The it now for me is Speedway Motorsports Complex, because we're adding to that property several components. The last 5 years I've been accumulating, buying, selling muscle cars, classic cars. I've fallen in love with that. I've made a lot of connections. It has been so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm taking that to Speedway 95. We got approved for our dealership. We got approved for our building before I left town. And there's another element to this that, it's going to happen in some form or another that's going to bring the people who want to be a part of this. It's going to bring it to them. And so somebody says to me, "What's the first thing you're going to do?" And I say, well, I can't say. I know my first objective is to change the culture and the attitude, and we're going to have 30 car divisions again. We will.
Cool.
I've made up my mind. Right. That's what we same approach we all take in racing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how long this is going to take, but I know I need everybody to rally behind me. So we're lining up the dominoes. We might put the 7th domino in place today. We might put the 14th domino in place next week.
Sure.
But January 1st, we're going to knock over the first domino, and it should all come together.
January 1st in Maine. It's cold. I can't even imagine.
No, you can. Yes, you can. Don't tell me you can't imagine.
I know what it's like in Maine in about that time of year. I would imagine
you and your dad.
opening day about what, July 1st? Well, I mean, when's it get warm enough up in that area to start turning laps?
I told the team of people that are associated with the top of the first inning that we need to operate 300 days a year, and they were like, but we are going to be a lot more than just a racetrack.
Mm-hmm.
And you and your dad came to my snowmobile ride, our charity.
It was ice
snowmobile
fishing.
ride.
Fishing being the operative
yeah,
word.
yeah,
There wasn't
so
much
ship-
fishing going on. I can tell you that.
Yeah, we were staying hydrated.
Sounds like a good day, though.
Staying hydrated.
Yeah, we were.
Yeah, staying hydrated. There you go.
And so if you're going to live in Maine or really anywhere on that parallel in North America or above, like, you have to find ways to entertain yourself. and ice fishing, you wouldn't believe the number of people that I've crossed paths with in my lifetime down here or anywhere warm. What is ice fishing? And like what? What? And I say, listen, once you do it, you're hooked. And I've brought volumes of people to Moosehead ice fishing, and they all came back. Like,
It's a great place.
yeah. So if you're going to survive in the North Woods, you have to embrace all of the elements, and nothing's off the table. We could have sled dog racing.
Yeah, I can't wait.
You want to sign up for that?
I would. You know what? I watch it online. Can I watch it online?
Yeah.
From the comfort of
Yeah.
my warm North Carolina home.
I think I'd sign up
so
for
you're
it,
moving,
to be honest
so,
with you. It sounds awesome.
So you're moving back, right? You're moving,
moving
back to Maine.
I'm moving back for at least a couple of years, and it could be for the rest of my life. I mean, I've really never left. I mean, to be
No,
fair,
I know. Your
right?
heart is definitely there.
I've
It
really
always
never
has
left.
been.
Yeah.
I'm loving this conversation. I love when you can go back home and do what you love and take your passion and grow a race community and make it what it used to be and better. And I think it's really cool. Before we take our first break, give us an idea of the Maine racing community for people that have never been to Maine, that don't understand maybe the passion for motorsports.
Sure.
Enlighten us.
So it's deep rooted, and like it's where I'm from, and
It's beautiful.
I climbed a ladder. I went to the top level of motorsports, and I went to victory lane. With all that said, there are thousands of people like me that they bleed auto racing, and the center of the universe may be the 4 or 5 tracks in Maine or New England. I raced at every one of them, and for us, you know, we had our Daytona 500s. We had our big events. You know, I think about like the Spring Sizzler, the Icebreaker, the Oxford 250. Like when I moved south, everybody asked, how do you become a race car driver in Maine? But if you're born there and that's your passion, you think it's the center of the universe, and it still exists. Like I am blessed. And everybody that went to New Hampshire International Speedway, New Hampshire Motor Speedway now, anybody that went there when I was driving would scratch their head and say, wow, they love this guy. And that's just part of the culture. Mike, you can speak to the Celtics and the Red Sox and the Patriots and the Bruins. And
Not the Bruins. I'm a Whalers fan, but go on.
you got to get over it. Your people have never gotten over that. I'm sorry about that. But it's just part of the culture. Like the people of New England rally behind their sports, and they have deep-rooted allegiance to their players and their drivers. And I used to joke, though, my father-in-law was the world's biggest Red Sox fan, and he could love and hate the Red Sox like most New Englanders, but he could do it in like the same inning. And that's part of it,
can
too.
see that.
They're very passionate, and they'll express themselves, and you don't have to ask their opinion. They'll share it with you.
Well, let me tell you, Chris, as proud as Ricky is to be from New England, the folks in Maine are equally proud of him for representing them as well as he has over the years. I can tell you this. He is Maine royalty. And I'll leave you with this little story. So we mentioned the ice fishing trip, and I've told you this story before. My dad was with me, and we were driving home. My dad did like to drive a little fast every once in a while, and my dad was driving a little too fast, and a Maine state trooper pulled us over and asked my father about his speed and what have you, and I just so casually dropped the name Ricky Craven and his ice fishing event, and the trooper said, "Were you with Ricky Craven?" And we said yes, and he said, "Just slow down, be on your way."
Come on.
It holds that much weight.
Come on.
True story.
Yeah, you
How
got
good is that?
You got him on a good day. You got him on a good day.
Got him on a good day. Got him on a good day. Let's take a break. Good news is we got 3 more segments. Ricky Craven hanging out with us today. Chris Childers, Mike Massaro. It's Backstretch Banter with RFK. Stick around. We are back on Backstretch Banter, Sirius XM NASCAR Channel 90. Chris Childers with Mike Massaro of RFK. Our guest today. It's been really fun hanging out with Ricky Craven. We learned all about Speedway 95 in Maine, and it was funny because Ricky recently was quoted saying that this was going to be really fun, but it was a little bit backbreaking, and he would know a thing or two because he's broken his back in a race car. Let's relive some of the old days. You had an incredible career. You talked a little bit about it last segment and what motorsports means to you and how you cut your teeth in Maine and you made it to the big circuit and, certainly, had to learn your way around the South. But give us an idea of those crazy moments. Let's go back to 1996, Daytona, crazy crash, and I believe you actually literally broke your back. Did you not?
Talladega, by the way, but yes, go ahead.
It wasn't Daytona. Oh, it's Daytona.
It's Talladega. Yeah, so we had a phenomenal start to the year, and I think going into Talladega, we were top 5 in points, and everything's just rolling with the Kodiak team. It was sort of a homegrown team. I don't know how it happened. I know that.
Oh boy.
I know that Mark and Jeff got together, and I got pushed from behind at 200 miles an hour, went over the hood of one of the cars, and when I hit the wall upside down, it hurt. But I remember instantly saying to myself, damn, that hurt, but at least it's over. But I was in the air, I was at that moment, I was still in the early innings of this gymnastic of a wreck. And when I landed, it knocked me out. There was no suspension. I landed flat frame to the racetrack, probably 40, 50 feet. And I woke up to Steve Peterson, who was a director with NASCAR, and I couldn't breathe. And I couldn't breathe because I played football when I was in 7th grade, but I decided that's not my sport. Okay, but in football you get the wind knocked out of you. I had never gotten the wind knocked out of me. Thought I had, but I woke up inside this car and couldn't breathe. And Steve said, short breaths, short breaths, short breaths. And I'm trying to fill my lungs. And the medics were saying, fill your lungs, fill your lungs, fill your lungs. And I also was vomiting. And
oh, my gosh.
So they cut the roof off, extract me from the car, and fly me to Birmingham. And but prior to taking me out, I told Steve, I said, I got something in my back. I guess something came through the seat. It's in my back. And a few minutes later, they're cutting the roof off. He said, Ricky, there's nothing. Nothing's come through the seat. And I said, there's something in my back. And it wasn't until we went through the trauma and the x-rays and the CAT scans, and I had fractured 2 vertebrae. Now, it completely disrupted the whole season. It really derailed the whole season. And I don't know. I've asked drivers forever, because remember, on the backside of this, when I hung up my helmet, I became an analyst. And so I either did it or I studied it. And I've asked drivers all along the way, how important was sleep? And almost all of them said critically important. I would think that would be the same for all athletes. Some of them, like Martin Truex Jr., I'll never forget, said, it doesn't really matter. And I'd go, yeah, you got the envy of the world, because I had to sleep to be focused. And I never slept well again for a while, all of '96, because I was just so uncomfortable.
Yet, somehow, you started the next race. Is that accurate?
So that was an enormous debate, and the first thing I had to do was get discharged, which we did on a Tuesday or Wednesday. And Dale actually sent his plane down to get me and my wife, and I brokered a deal with NASCAR to let me run one lap, because again, you can go back and look at the standings, but we're having a fabulous sophomore season. So you got to let me just run one lap. And now I'll fast forward, to not bore everyone to tears here, but they allow me to do it. We got Ron Hornaday standing by. Ron was a hell of a racer, particularly at Sonoma. And I go out, I make a lap, and I feel pretty good. I feel good enough that I make another lap. And my crew chief comes on, and I can't remember if it was Charlie Presley or Tommy Baldwin. One of them came on and said, hey, they're black flagging you if you don't come in. And because it was a road course, I pretended I couldn't hear them. And I ran another lap. And sure enough, they black flagged me. And I was like, I surrender on the 3rd or 4th lap. And I come in, and when they're pulling me out of the car, the pain comes back. But I saw on Dale Sr.'s face when he got out of the car a few years later. Right. He had broken his sternum, I believe, and he had to get out of his car, and he was emotional. Okay, like our hero, the man in black, and he got emotional when he got out of the car and couldn't do an interview. And I'm telling you, all of those things were sort of incorporated in me in that moment. Like, I
Wow.
swear to you, I was not going to get out of the car because I'd worked my whole life for this. We're this close to winning. And I didn't want anybody else in my car. But, those things, all of those things that I shared with you made me a reasonable analyst because I loved getting the opportunity and the platform to tell people, sort of set the record straight on certain things that I didn't feel like were explained correctly. And that's one of those moments. Drivers are, uber competitive, fierce competitors, but they're also among the most insecure people that walk the planet. And for someone to get in their car is like somebody kissing their wife. You know? I mean, it's just,
No, absolutely.
you don't even want to watch. Okay? So you're stuck at the racetrack, and, I told my wife, I said, let's go. And she goes, go where? And I go, I'm getting out of here. I did not watch a lap. Got in the car and drove down to San Francisco and probably had a cocktail or something because it was brutal.
That's amazing. I mean, just that alone is amazing. But there's so much more to the Ricky Craven story, Chris. Just so much more. That's 1996.
I'm enjoying this.
Like,
it's fun.
So 1997. This is going off memory here. 1997 starts off with an amazing run at Daytona, right? You finished
Correct.
1, 2,
Right.
3 with your
Right.
teammates at Hendrick. People were like, Ricky Craven's back. He's ready to go. And then not too long after that, Texas happens.
Yeah.
Right? So Texas, which you mentioned in the first segment, just the outsider's view, would seem to me as the most significant crash of your career.
Yeah, it truly was.
Not as spectacular necessarily as Talladega, and Talladega was terrible.
Yeah, I don't think there's any video of the impact.
Right.
There is a little bit of video of me sliding down the front stretch, but the wreck happened entering turn 3. And, you hear it from football players. They don't remember this game. They don't remember that. But concussions affect things. And so the easiest way to put you in that situation is to explain to you, I woke up in the helicopter. I had no vision. I had blood coming from my ear. And I was strapped to a board and had no idea where I was or who I was. Complete disorientation, but I heard the sound of the prop on the airplane, the rotation of the prop. And they wheeled me into Parkland Hospital in Dallas, Texas, and they asked me to sign something, even though I couldn't see. I had no next of kin, and essentially I was signing to give them permission to do whatever it took to keep me alive. And it was the worst experience of my life. And I can tell you I made peace with God laying there because I never considered dying in a race car, or I never considered the consequences. I accepted the consequences. And I think all drivers do that. They have to. But I never allowed myself to think about it. And here I am in a situation where I have 2 children, and I don't care if I ever race again. Just let me be okay. Just let me get home to my children. And I raced for 25 years. I had 2 accidents. They just happened to be back-to-back in the Cup Series.
And pretty bad.
Bad enough that it disrupted everything that was going on, and but not bad enough that I didn't get to finish the job.
Well, thankfully, Ricky's here to tell us those stories and tell us many, many, many more stories. And there's, to me, I would say an amazing exclamation point to put on this. It didn't come until a few years later, 2001, Martinsville. That was the comeback complete.
Yeah, thank God for that, because without that, none of it would have been acceptable in my life. And that sounds crazy, and people say, well, really? I mean, you got 3 children, really? But that's how we're hardwired. And the win at Martinsville said, okay, It's okay. Everything's okay now.
Chris, I don't mean to hijack the show, but
I'm enjoying myself. This
I
is
remember
really
the win. I remember the win at Martinsville in 2001, and I've covered a lot of races, and there's been a lot of popular wins that were cathartic for the sport, cathartic for the driver and everybody around. This one is at the top of that list. So many people very happy to see Ricky Craven get to victory lane after everything he had gone through the previous years. What was it like now as we look back on that victory?
We're still celebrating it. Okay. And in fact, the car was loaded today, and it's leaving here, North Carolina. It's going to New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Kurt is coming with us, and he and I are going to have happy hour at New Hampshire Motor Speedway.
Okay, but that's because of the Darlington victory, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. You're talking about...
I'm talking Martinsville. Okay, so Kurt's a whole different story. That Darlington one.
I'm trying to jump in.
I'll tell you what.
Martinsville.
Let me get in here for a second. Let's take a break.
I'm trying to jump ahead because I'm looking at our producer.
We need proper time, though. Let's let Martinsville breathe.
Yeah.
Let's let it breathe. Okay. Let's get its proper excitement, because you're right. It was a special moment for not only Ricky, but race fans across the world. So we'll talk about it next on Backstretch Banter. We're back here. It's Backstretch Banter, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio, Channel 90. Chris Childers with RFK's Mike Massaro. This is your home for Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing each and every week on Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. Ricky Craven has been nice enough to hang out with us throughout the hour. The race car driver, the former media mogul, and now a track owner. As we've talked about, everybody needs to look up Speedway 95 and see all the great things that Ricky is going to be doing there over the next several years. With that said, we've been reliving some of the great moments in his career. We just talked about some of the crazy stuff, the unfortunate stuff, the scary stuff. How about the good? Mike, I know. Go back to a beautiful moment in this guy's life. He gets into victory lane, 2001, and the racing community rejoiced, Mr. Massaro, did it not?
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. As I was alluding to in a previous segment, it was the exclamation point on a comeback for Ricky Craven. We had talked about the unfortunate times, Talladega's crash, the Texas crash, the injuries that were sustained. He had such potential in the early stages of his career. People were waiting and waiting for him to get to victory lane. And then it finally happened. 2001, Martinsville. There was not a dry eye in the house, I don't think. I think there were so many people that were happy for Ricky Craven that he was able to get that victory at the Cup level. I want to know, and I think we've talked about this several times, but
Sure.
For our audience's sake, what was it like that day in Martinsville and beyond?
Yeah, so this is going to sound Hollywoodish. This is going to be, it's going to sound like this is part of the movies, right? But it's real. When I went under the checkered flag at Martinsville, time stood still. I've told people that it's been almost 25 years, and I've never experienced it since. Never experienced it before, and that's exactly how it felt. So I don't know if every driver put that kind of pressure on themselves to win in Cup. I have the sense that they did because I was around them. I lived with them. I remember Rick Hendrick saying to me one time when I went to drive for him, he said, listen, remember, and this is from a man who was battling leukemia. He says, I know how bad you want to win, but remember, if you don't win, it's not life-threatening. Now, he told me that, and it's probably the only thing he's ever told me that I said, to hell with that. Yes, it is. I mean, it is. It feels life-threatening that you win, or at least it did for me. And maybe that worked against me at times, but when we finally were able to win, oh my goodness, it changed my life. And that is part of 1971 Speedway 95. It's part of 1982, winning my first race and only my second start. Bobby Allison being a guest that night at Unity Raceway and giving me his Gatorade hat, saying, man, I watched you come from the rear, and you took a piece of every car. And when I wanted to meet you. And Bobby Allison's been one of my heroes ever since. It's part of 1991, winning 10 races in the Busch Grand National North Championship. It's all of those things culminating in, okay, I finally got to the top of Mount Rushmore, and I don't know how, it changed my life.
Where's the trophy?
The trophy's always with me. It's either at my home or in my office. But the one thing that I've become I'm more connected to, because I've bought into all the important, valuable, historic things in our sport, the meaningful things like the Martinsville clock. And that Martinsville clock that's sort of the centerpiece for me. Mm-hmm. I've actually one of the Martinsville trophies. It's a shape of that is at New England Museum, adjacent to the Speedway that Dick Bergeron helped organize, and that's really a cool, special place because Pete Hamilton, Ronnie Bouchard, Joey Logano, and I became directors of that when Dick put it together, and Dick was clearly the catalyst of it, start to finish. And the four of us got together. Now that was a moment, and I knew that was a moment to be sitting with Ronnie, who became a really good friend, and Pete Hamilton, who I didn't get to know, but every time I didn't get to know him well, but every time I saw Pete, he treated me like I was his nephew. And, he would talk about things that I did, and I was like, wow, you've been watching. And, Pete won the 1970 Daytona 500.
Yep.
Ronnie had one of the greatest finishes at Talladega.
Yep.
On the last, kind of Darlington-ish, like in the last.
Beat your hero, I think. Bobby Allison finished second in that race, maybe?
Darrell Waltrip and Terry Labonte.
Oh, okay.
And,
I remember
and then
some Hall of Famers involved.
Yeah,
I knew that.
And then
pretty good ones.
And then a Hall of Famer that's destined to become is Joey, and Joey's so we all have equity in each other, right? But we were there together on that moment, and I am a historian when it comes to NASCAR. I just, probably not on the level of Dale Earnhardt Jr. because it's one of the things I love about him is that he just consumes himself with it. But I study pretty hard.
Chris, you get the sense you could sit here and listen to Ricky all day?
Dude,
I do.
I got to be honest with you. This is the most fun I've had doing this show. I'm just like sitting here, I feel like I'm just listening to the show, and I'm adding my comments once in a while. But I'm really enjoying myself today. Ricky, you're a gem.
Listen, you guys
you're
got
an absolute gem. I love how much you love and are an ambassador for the sport that needs people like you rooting it on and spreading the word about how great, and not just what it is, the tradition, the history, the stories. It's beautiful.
It makes me feel great. It really does. And you don't have to ever do it again, but thank you. It really makes me feel good because 15 years in television that I never expected I would get. And again, I used that platform to express what I experienced and share whatever I had for knowledge. But also, if I didn't know, I would say I didn't know. I would say this is what the sport has taught me. This is what I learned from my friend Jeff Gordon, who I spent a lot of time with and became teammates. I thought I was Jeff Gordon when I agreed to go there and compete with him. In full disclosure, in case you guys didn't know, I'm not. Okay, I'm not. I had to confirm it the hard way, but something I've never said. I'm still a hell of a racer, and I'm proud of my career. But Jeff Gordon is one of those chosen few.
Yeah.
The same way that Jimmy Johnson and Dale Earnhardt and Richard Petty are. And so thank you for those comments, because regardless of where I am geographically, I am NASCAR the rest of my life.
I love it.
I mean, Jim France knows that. Mike Helton knows that. Steve O'Donnell knows that. And that's why I feel like I still have great relationships with all of them.
Mm-hmm.
I love it, man. I really do. This is so much fun. We have one segment left. Let's take a break, come back, finish up with Ricky Craven next right here on Backstretch Banter. We're back, Backstretch Banter, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio, Channel 90. Chris Childers, Mike Massaro. Ricky Craven's been hanging out all day. We are going to St. Louis as a team this week. RFK is. And this guy knows a thing or two about Roush Racing, as he was a RFK driver back when it was just the R back in 2005. His last full-time season in the Truck Series with RFK. What are your fondest memories of being with this team, being in that building, and being around Jack Roush?
Yeah, I say this sincerely. You guys know that I wouldn't say it if I didn't mean it. My fondest memories are Jack Roush. Like, I had been associated with Jack from afar. And he is a little difficult to warm up to get to know. And I love the guy. I absolutely loved racing for Jack Roush. I actually didn't always look forward to it, but I enjoyed the Tuesday meetings. I loved the way he went about his business. I loved the way he kept people accountable. I loved the expectations he had for the whole entire group. Philosophically, I told him when I decided to sign off and retire, if you were on the New York Stock Exchange, I would buy all I can get. And that was my experience. The problem was, it was the bottom of the ninth inning for me. As a matter of fact, I might have been in extra innings. I mean, and we started out, I think the first 8 races, the first third of the season, were in second in points. I think Bobby Hamilton, the defending champ, was leading points. Everything was going great. And then the wheels kind of fell off of it. Late in the season, we win at Martinsville. It's like, okay, cool, because now I've won in each of NASCAR's top 3 divisions. I'm done. But I got to tell you real quick, Jack calls me one day. He says, hey, what are you doing? And I go, I'm going to Home Depot. My wife wants me to paint a room. So I had already retired. And he says, well, can you stop? And I go, what do you need? And he said, we're going to move Carl up to the Cup Series, and we want you to drive the 99 truck. And I go, okay. He goes, okay, what? I said, good. And he goes, we're good? And I said, we're good. I said, I got to go talk to my wife. So I drove back, and I go in, and she goes, where's the paint? And I go, I quit. I'm going racing. And I basically went racing with Jack for a year. And it was fabulous. It really was.
It's a great story.
That's awesome.
Did the room ever get painted? I just want to make sure.
Well, it did if she did it.
Yeah, okay,
I don't know.
So, Chris, none of that is exaggerated. I mean, he is still a Roush loyalist to a degree. Today, as he drove up to the podcast studio, he, as he mentioned earlier, has been collecting and selling muscle cars. Well, the car he chose to drive today is, correct me if I'm wrong, 2006?
Yeah, Roush Mustang.
Roush Mustang.
Ooh.
It's in the parking lot right now.
Yeah, Jack's done amazing things. I mean, he's a pioneer. He's a pillar to everything he connects to, dedicates himself to. I remember crossing paths with him in Michigan and said, you got a business up here? I said, yeah, I got 4,500 employees. And I thought, here's a guy that has 4,500 employees, and the most important thing in his world is whatever he's doing that minute. Okay, so when he was at a race, he's consumed with it. But you got to remember, he's got 4,500 employees. I was fascinated with that, and I've always been a deep thinker. And the only regret I have about my experience with Roush is that I didn't have 20 years, because I really got a kick out of Jack. I mean, now here's a guy, for all of you that think that he's sort of stoic, takes himself too serious, an engineer mentality and all that, he's got an incredible sense of humor. You just gotta be with him, and you gotta establish some credibility with him enough so that he'll show you that side of him. But it was all good. It was all good. And now I'm watching some amazing things that you all are doing. So thank you for having me today.
Our sincere pleasure. I can promise you that. Ricky Craven, great to have him, a NASCAR legend. Ricky, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chris.
All right, we are done for the day. Hope everybody enjoyed our conversation with Ricky Craven. For Mike Massaro, I'm Chris Childers. Want to thank everybody who helps us out at RFK, Thomas Burfield, Elijah Burke, the NASCAR producers from SiriusXM back in D.C. We appreciate them, and we thank you all for listening to SiriusXM's Backstretch Banter with RFK on NASCAR Radio Channel 9.
Welcome to a bonus segment of Backstretch Banter. I'm Mike Massaro, and I am so privileged to be joined by someone who I consider a very good friend, but also one of the most amazing analysts in the history of NASCAR racing, also a former RFK racing driver, back when it was simply known as Roush Racing. Ricky Craven is with us. Ricky, great to be back with you. Folks who don't know, Ricky and I used to be on a television show on ESPN called NASCAR Now. He was my color analyst. I think about those days all the time.
Same.
When you think back on those days, what stands out for you?
We were brothers.
Absolutely.
I mean, we would get up early, production meetings, stay late. As you said earlier, we'd leave, we'd go celebrate, we'd have sushi at Walmart.
Sushi at Walmart's a whole different story, by the way. And if you haven't done that, you haven't lived. Yes.
Well, yeah, that's contradicting. But we, you, Alan Bestwick, Nicole Briscoe, Shannon Spake, I mean, we were a family. All of them know how close we were. And you lived there. I'm from New England. That helped. I'm a New England boy, so... I owe that, really do truly owe that to Jack Obringer, who called me out of the blue and made that all happen.
You like to refer to it as being a first-round draft choice, right? Because you were one of the first people picked to be an analyst at ESPN. That meant a lot to you, and you lived up to it.
It was the most enjoyable part of my professional life, and it wasn't exempt of pressure. It was the pressure that I actually fell in love with, because when the light was on, I felt this responsibility to deliver what I knew and what I believed was right, even if it wasn't popular, even if it felt a little uncomfortable because a friend was involved or a colleague. But the viewers always deserved that, and I always tried to give it to them.
You make a good point. We've seen analysts have a hard time with that. Because you do make relationships when you're driving or when you're working in the sport, and then when you transition to TV, the producers want something else.
Right.
The producers want honesty. You gave the producers that. You gave the audience that, which is really what the most important thing is, because the audience doesn't want to be sold a bill of goods. They want to be told the truth. But at the same time, that's difficult to do.
There's sort of a separation of church and state when you think about what the organization of television, the producers and the executives, what they want from you is pulling the rope in a different direction than NASCAR, not because NASCAR doesn't believe in that, but with NASCAR, we all belong to the club. And you never pick a fight with NASCAR, right? If you're a competitor, you don't challenge NASCAR. And so this was a little different for me, because my allegiance was still with NASCAR and is still with NASCAR, but I always felt the responsibility to do my job. And my job was to be authentic, to be real. That's the only thing I had to offer. I'm certainly not the brightest guy, and I certainly didn't have the most wins. But I do think that the people connected with me because I gave them real. And that's what I expect out of everybody in my life.
Do you feel like there's still part of you that's an analyst, that is
Every
watching
day.
the races week in, week out, and seeing things that you want to say?
Every single day of my life. I've had an incredible life, and I'm grateful. And I never underestimate how much of that life was a byproduct of being part of an organization that was created by the France family, and that created this incredible momentum and inertia. And a lot of what I have physically is because of that.
I asked that question because I remember, I think it was only about a year ago, 2024, Martinsville, the way that race ended. I think you went on social media and you wanted to make a point.
Not because... Thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
Not because there was anything personal between me or any of those drivers. Austin Dillon, I think it was Ross Chastain, Bubba, and listen, they know, actually Bubba, Ross, I'm a big, big fan of all those drivers that have gotten to the Cup level. But I also feel, even though I'm not employed, I feel a certain responsibility to protect the sport. That's water over the dam. It's water under the bridge. But I would never want to put myself in this position where I'm persona non grata, right? Because I worked my whole life to be part of it. And I feel like I earned it and I have credibility. What upset me so much about that day is that I was actually...
And that was the way Martinsville finished, right?
Yes, the way it finished. But I'm sitting watching this race not as an employee of anyone. I'm watching as a customer, as a fan. And when you sign on to something that big, and when you make a commitment to something that big, it occupies several months, not hours, but months of your life. You sign on in February, and you sign off in November. And I was very disappointed in how the last part of that race unfolded, because, I'm going to protect the sport. And anybody who's had any success at all in NASCAR wants the sport to get better and better and better and better. I heard Mark Martin say it just recently. Okay, if you worked your whole life to be a Cup winner, which is what I've done, I worked my whole entire life to win at Cup, and I won on several levels all the way up. When I finally reached the peak, the crescendo, now I own it. And I'm going to protect it and preserve it. That's all that was about. I feel good about the sport. I feel like the sport survived a bit of a lull, and it's headed in the right direction. But paramount to our sport is for the people who have signed on to watch it and commit to it, for them to believe 100% that it is real, and that came into play a little bit.
So you mentioned Mark Martin. He's been very honest about what he's seen out of the sport recently. You're of the same generation. So one of the topics du jour that Mark has delved into, I just wonder if you would want to delve into these waters as well, is the way the champion's crowned. How do you see that today?
I think that that's a really difficult battle to win. At my core, I'm 100% fundamentally exactly like Mark Martin on this discussion, because I believe your entire body of work should reflect on who is champion. But if the business were run on that, purely on that, we'd be in big trouble. Because if it's not entertaining, if it's not compelling, then people aren't going to tune in for every event through the last chapter, the last corridor of the season. I completely understand why NASCAR did it. Being real, okay, it's not perfect, because I believe that your entire body of work should matter. But I also am sensitive to what the people who are responsible for the existence of NASCAR and for the growth of NASCAR, I'm very sensitive to what they're up against. Like, these are very, very, very valuable contracts. Billions.
Right.
So even though we want what we had, I'm not sure how practical it is in terms of competing with the other things that the viewer can choose to go to. I mean, we all can relate to that. If you take that approach, it becomes a much more difficult discussion. And you're talking to a guy who has the highest level of respect for Mark Martin, one of my heroes. He's the guy that did it the right way. He was a phenomenal racer, but more importantly, I don't think there was anyone that did it better than Mark did when it comes to competing the right way. And he knows how I feel about him.
And we'll move on a little bit because you kind of mentioned NASCAR and how they have to also pay attention to the business growing, right? So you're kind of delving into those waters yourself as a promoter and an owner of a speedway. We talked a little bit about this in our primary segment on Backstretch Banter, but now you're the owner of Speedway 95 up in your home state of Maine. I want to get into that a little bit more. So when you talk about the entertainment factor, when you talk about entertaining your customers, I know you like to use that word, what's your primary objective?
To giving the fans and the customers something that is so compelling that when they leave, they feel like they're leaving a little too soon, like they can't wait to get back. And I know that can happen. I know that can exist. I bleed auto racing, and I have 100% allegiance to NASCAR. I haven't always agreed with everything, but when something becomes that big, you can't agree with everything the organization, the governing body does, because you're not aware of all the elements of it. Having said that, my real passion is short track racing. And when you and I were together at ESPN, you'll love this because I never told you this. In fact, I didn't tell 5 people.
I've heard a lot of stories from Ricky, so if it's something he's never told me, I'm on the edge of my seat right now.
Probably the only person I told this was Ray Evernham because he would have been a significant part of it. I have very, very high regard for Ray. He's a good friend and helped me along a lot in my career. But I spent 3 years at ESPN while we're working. I had a computer designated to creating a short track series, a nationwide short track series. And this started, it would have been 10 years ago. It would have been maybe 12 years ago. But I have all of that on a hard drive. And I took that to John Wildhack. And I had a meeting and I said, can I sell this? John, I didn't know, was this close to retiring and becoming the AD at Syracuse.
John Wildhack, by the way, was the leader at ESPN. He was the president, I believe his title was. Yes.
Yeah, just below Joan Skipper. And
correct.
Both of them, wonderful gentlemen, and I'd take a bullet for either of them. John looks at me and he said, "This is really good," but we still weren't out of the Great Recession completely. And I said, "I don't want you to respond. Tell me tomorrow." Came back next day and he goes, "It will work, but at this time, it's a tough putt." I never heard anybody use that expression. I love analogies and but he said it's a tough putt. And so I've closed my computer and I put it on the back burner. And so Speedway 95 is 32 acres right on Interstate 95. I've wanted that property for a long time. Never really realistically been able to pull it all together, but we have. And we did it at the right time. In another year or two, I couldn't have done this. But I am all in. And there are several components to what my objective is with those 32 acres in Hermon, Maine. And, I'm preoccupied a little bit with living to 100 because I need that much time. I need it. I need 40 more years.
Oh, my goodness. That's a long time to be an operator of a racetrack, I can tell you. Hey, before you leave, certainly I want to reminisce just one little more time about ESPN, our time there together. I know that one of the most enjoyable parts of being there was just kind of interacting with the athletes, the celebrities who came from other sports and things like that. You just Mike Dick, I remember somebody popping their head in a meeting one time. We were in a meeting, a NASCAR meeting, and said, "Hey, anybody seen Mike Ditka?" And we're like, "No."
Yeah.
And we just resonate. It's like, he just asked us if we've seen Mike Ditka. Because those people walk through the hallways.
Yeah.
What are your recollections of those moments at ESPN?
Probably took it for granted, but we hung out in the green room with Randy Moss and Chris Carter and Trent Dilfer. Herm Edwards, great guy, right? I mean, just a great human being. And Trent Dilfer, Herm Edwards, Mike Ditka, I looked forward to seeing them every week. So Mike Ditka at the time, he didn't really have much interest in NASCAR, but we connected, and I told him I was on Moosehead Lake, and he had some connection there. He's also dating, maybe married now, to a lady from Maine. And I remember the three of us having a meal together. But Mike would bring me. I told him that I would smoke a cigar or two up at Moosehead, and the next week he brought me a box of Mike Ditka cigars, and then he just kept bringing them. And those 13 years were phenomenal, Mike. You know, Bestwick knows, Ray Evernham knows, Nicole Briscoe knows. Like, we had an incredible culture.
We did.
And all of us. I mean, it was sort of like our version of Cheers, you know, in that we're in New England and everybody knows our name.
Oh, my gosh. On that note, I think we should go belly up to a bar someplace and have a beer.
Okay, Norm.
That Cliffy, that wraps up our segment here, our bonus segment of Backstretch Banter. Thanks for being with us, Ricky Craven. It is always a pleasure being with you.
Same, Mike. Thank you.